Namaskar. Welcome to Prakash on Basics. I'm Prakash Zog. We talked of the old red, yellow, blue or the RYB model of color theory last time, how colors are mixed. Yeah. Now, let's look at the newer or the later theories that evolved. Let us look into the first major additive theory. When many colors illuminate the same area of the retina, their effect gets added on. So, this second theory is the red, green, blue theory or the RGB theory, and that is an additive theory. It was proposed by Thomas Young and Helmholtz, and it was known as the and is still known as the trichromatic theories. Tri means three, chromatic is associated with color. Um, Additive color model means you need to find out which colors add. And the primary colors treated here are obviously red, green, and blue. That's exactly similar to the long, medium, and short uh, cones that we talked of when we try to interpret how the retina produces colored images, which are and the signals that are sent to the brain. Mm, There was another scientist, uh, Maxwell, who improved on it around. This is all around 1860. All of these people are basically who worked in physics, and they are the people who were trying to interpret the color mixing that was used by the variety of artists working at that time and later on and before and so forth. Mm. Uh, in around 1961, it's a very early area. This Maxwell carried out a photography experiment. Even photography was new at that time. Uh, he photographed the same object with three different filters: red, green, and blue, that were put in front of a lens. He photographed them, and as these early photographs, they were many a times prepared and placed monochrome on a glass plate, and then he projected all three colored images on a common wall, and he found that he got the actual color combination that existed in the original situation where the photograph was taken. It's a very early stage and a very sensible thinking that went about. And so this really went about to prove that many colors or color wavelengths join to form a single image on the retina. They illuminate the cones um, and stimulate them and send the necessary signals at different levels, which the brain interprets as a particular color. And all this we have discussed when we talked of how the cones and the color works. The three primary colors, obviously, that were used in this particular theory were R, G, and B, which is red, green, and blue. Together, they produce a large gamut of colors. And probably it is the largest gamut of colors that can be produced that is talked of, which is the RGB combination. Um, RGB needs input devices. It could be a beam of light or original sunlight. Uh, it could be LEDs. It could be some other form of light sources. And the image has to be formed on some surface, or the object has to be illuminated in a particular manner. So what is being illuminated also makes a big difference. That is the background, and this background makes a big difference. For example, if you look at the rainbow, that's something that we talked of long back. Uh, if you look at the rainbow in bright sunlight, the colors appear to be slightly different. If it's cloudy and dark behind, it's different. If it is dusk time and the shades are already reddish, everything is different. So it is the background that makes a difference in what we perceive or see as far as that particular color is seen. The effect is obviously best seen on a white background, because all other backgrounds are going to add on and affect the color that you see. So how do you go about and actually see these verify this RGB model? So what is done is you use a extremely dark room uh, on which there in which there is a white screen. So if there is no light in the room, you can hardly see anything around except probably the white screen. But that is also, if the light is very low, not possible. Then there are three projectors that can project three beams corresponding to red, green, and blue, and these will overlap on the screen at a given point. Now, each of these beams is fitted with a technical device which is a variable resistance, which is known as a dimmer. You'll notice this that is used on stages and somewhere where they change the dial, or nowadays also you get those dimmers where you change the dial and the intensity of light can be reduced to a very large extent. So each of these light beams, their intensity can be controlled individually. Mm, Now, if I put on each of these, I would see the three red, green, and blue circles or spots on the screen. Uh, if I put all three of them, then all of them would overlap and produce a white image. Now, out of this, if I start dimming the red and reduce it practically to minimum, only green and blue would illuminate, and the color that is seen is known as cyan, lightish shade of blue, as we know of. Similarly, if red and green are the only ones that are left and blue is reduced down, then it produces a color of yellow. And if only red and blue are retained, then what you and green is reduced down to zero, what you get is a color which is known as magenta. So cyan, magenta, and yellow are the secondary colors of the RGB model that we are talking of, or the RGB theory. Uh, Change the percentage by changing the dimmer, and all other gamut of colors would be observed. As I said, if you switch on all three of them, you see white, and if you switch off all of them, you see dark, or you don't see anything. And that's practically, you couldn't say you don't see black, but it's absence of light. Uh, where is this used? In every cathode ray tube. That is the something that we mentioned long back, uh, where the beams of electrons produce images and so forth. When we started talking about what TVs are, or actually all TVs started off from there, which is known as the cathode ray tube. When we had all those TVs that were pretty big, large box, bulky behind, and so forth. So all TV screens which have cathode ray tubes, or any device that had a cathode ray tube, uses this particular RGB theory. All laptops, screens, and all of them, there are what are known as pixels. Pixel is an abbreviation. Uh, Picture elements. This is the smallest unit of a digital display of a device. So a particular number of pixels are said to be present. Each pixel, in the previous days there used to be single pixels, but as things started changing and color was brought into the picture, and then each pixel is subdivided into three sub pixels, naturally red, green, and blue. uh, they are present, the front would be glass, and just behind it are these sub pixels, uh, each one with a pixel. And that is there in all LED or LCD or plasma displays or TVs and so forth. And behind them is a light source. These light sources in the previous days used to be beams of electrons that used to scan the whole picture. Nowadays, of course, there is a whole sheet that has LED diodes that can be illuminated individually to illuminate the pixels that we are talking of. And these could have their intensities varied as required. All this is generated by a suitable software or a integrated chip IC, as it is known. Um, these pixels are so small that all these three colors that are there would merge into each other, and you can't see them separately. And you would be able to see only that particular color that is expected because of the combination that is present, or the effect that is going to be projected and seen on the screen. This number of pixels is extremely large. Um, Remember, on a TV or on any particular screen, depending upon how it is being scanned, there could be thousands of dots, uh, each one a pixel or a sub-pixel, and there could be 625 or 575 lines and so forth, and they would be scanned 30 or 40 times per second and so forth. So the number of dots or the pixels could be pretty large, and that is measured in terms of millions. So normally it could be any early ones used to have about 1 megapixel. Mega is 1 million. Then later on it used to be around 2.2 megapixels. If you talk of a 4K and a ultra high definition TV that you have nowadays, that goes up to about 12 million pixels that are present. And these have to be illuminated, all of them, minimum 30 times or 24 times per second. So think of the amount of signal that is to be, strength of the signal and the frequency of the signal that is being used. So uh, this is how the colored picture is produced. This RGB theory of color mixing is used to produce all color pictures that we know nowadays. Even TV projections nowadays can be produced on this manner. All cathode ray tubes, TV screens, LEDs, LED plasma TVs, high definition TV, all sort of displays use this particular technology. Now they need to be controlled specifically. So as time passed, and the electronics developed to a greater and greater extent, it was essential. I told you in the last time and even in the beginning that it is the amount of percentage that is utilized to calculate the strength of a particular color. So you need to have some representation. So they are represented not by percentage but by numbers. And this number for each of them goes from 0 to 255. Why 255? Because um, 2 raised to 8 is 256. 2 into 2 into 2 into 2 into 2 into 2 into 2, 8 times is 256. And um, that 8 then means that this information can be placed in 8 positions in the binary systems. And an 8-bit piece becomes a single byte, and that one byte is used to represent one particular number assigned to one particular sub-pixel for that particular color. It's a little complex. I just told you what it is. So you will find that this information, that 256 into 2, and the second one and the third one, that's the amount of information for so many different colors that can be present. And so naturally, depending upon 78 and 192, 56, that will give you one color. Three other numbers will give you another color. And all this is dependent upon the intensity of light that is going to fall on the three subpixels at any particular instant. And that's how we see all those so many beautiful colors that are there on every TV or a projected device nowadays, or on our TV screens and so forth, or the image that you're seeing right now, the shades that you're seeing and the brightness and the difference that you're seeing. So naturally, suppose a wavelength excites both medium and long cones, you would start seeing a color that is closer to yellow, and you would have different combinations depending upon which is excited more and which is excited less and so forth. So our interpretation of color is going to be the amount of light that is coming out of each of these subpixels, which is so small that you cannot distinguish it individually, and so you get that particular color. Mm, but what happened in early TVs? There were no subpixels, so there was only brightness and darkness of that pixel, and it could be controlled. And so you would have different grades of or rather shades of gray that would be present, and that was the black and white TV. It is bringing in these subpixels R, G, and B that resulted into the colors that are seen on all possible screens nowadays. And three of them. Remember, if you remember, there was a TV called Trinitron that started off everything. Sony, I think, had a that is tree. Why tree? Because it's because of these three, and they are closely associated with the rods and rather cones that we have in our eye. So this seems to be, and they are all adding up to each other and producing the result that we are talking about. So this is the theory that is used to interpret color to a very large extent. One more step. There is a newer and a more advanced additive theory that is now in picture, and it is known as the YIQ color model. This is because so much of data and information for every spot to give the best of colors is to be passed on. So everyone is trying to develop better things, and so that has so for NTSC TVs, this scheme has come up where Y represents the luminescence or the extent of brightness of each pixel. Uh, for this, you need information close to about 6 megahertz of bandwidth is required for that. I represents orange and cyan hue or colors. This information gives you the best information associated with the flesh tones, and this requires around 1.5 megahertz of bandwidth. And Q is the one that controls the quantity of magenta and green hue information, and that requires a little lower bandwidth, which is around zero point 0.6 megahertz. So all told, that total around 810 is 8 is the amount that is used to get all the color information in the newer format that can be transmitted and will give you the blessed flesh tones and colors that we can nowadays see. These are all additive type of theories. I don't know. Later on, somebody might come up with a more advanced or a better theory, uh, additive theory. But what about things like this? The picture that is printed behind me. This doesn't use the additive theory. It uses the subtractive color theory, and that also is very interesting, and we need to talk of that. But that probably next time. If you have liked the information that I have talked of today, please pass it on to your friends. Uh, if possible, look at a TV using a lens or something, and you will see those dots or the specks that will form the color and so forth. Like and subscribe to this channel. Uh, Help yourself to learn a little more and know of the beauty of so many things around us. We'll talk of that subtractive theory, that is how all this color printing and all that is done, and other printing and photograph printing is done. But that's a subtractive theory, and that's a newer one again. It's not like mixing those RY red, yellow, and blue that we talked of last time. But this is a more advanced theory. We'll come to that next time. Till I tell you about that, another 15 days ahead from today. Namaskar.